And welcome back. I'm going to review the Flash movie starring Ezra Miller and Michael Keaton. And I gotta say, before I continue this review, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, I'm going to spoil this film. If you haven't seen it, please go see it first before watching this. I was anticipating and looking forward to this movie for a really long time. It's very exciting. I love the multiverse concept. I loved what they did with Spider-Man No Way Home, and I was super excited for this to happen with this movie because we know Ben Affleck, his Batman's there. We know Michael Keaton's Batman is there, and there's all this anticipation. Will Christian Bale make a comeback? Will George Clooney make a comeback? Will Val Kilmer make a comeback? So and for the Batmen to have their own No Way Home situation via the multiverse, very exciting. I think this was arguably the most anticipated DC film in a really, really long time. And it's sad for me to say that I found out because I saw the movie and I loved it. I just want to say that I loved it. But before I continue, it's sad to say that I found out that it's underperforming in the box office, and I'm just shocked. I couldn't understand why, right? Because again, there was so much hype for this movie, just like there was for Spider-Man No Way Home, and Spider-Man No Way Home crushed it in the box office. So I don't know why The Flash is underperforming. If I can take a guess, it could be because they chose the wrong weekend to put it in. And we have Father's Day, we have Juneteenth, and because Juneteenth falls on a Monday, it's a 3-day weekend. So people are going away. So perhaps they're not going to the movies. And the other thing that I can think of is that people are low key just boycotting the film because of Ezra Miller and his behavior. And we shouldn't let somebody like Ezra Miller ruin this for us because if this underperforms, which it's already on the way to do so, DC might just shut down and not make more cinema via these superheroes because this was their chance to reboot without rebooting. Okay, clean slate, and it's not looking good. I mean, it was looking good with all the hype. So many people were hyped for this movie. That's why it's really hard for me to believe that it's underperforming. And the movie was fantastic. It did deliver. Okay, before I start the review, I just want to quickly say that DC has been unfortunately a disappointment. Watching Man of Steel, it made me love and respect Superman again, but I think they screwed up with Batman vs Superman because real quick, when I was watching that movie, I just felt like it dragged, and I was like, why am I not liking this? And you know, I know it wasn't just me because when I saw Captain America: Civil War, which is pretty much the same thing almost, right? It was fantastic. The Justice League was trash. Okay, the Josh Wheaton version was just trash. The Zack Snyder version was a million times better. I'm so happy it came out. But this film was just incredible. So I'm going to start again. I don't remember if I said this, but spoiler alert, all right? But I don't. I'm going to start with all the bad things, and there's not too many. All right. The first bad thing is, the CGI. A lot of people were complaining about the CGI. Honestly, I noticed that at times it was really bad. Honest, but it didn't bother me. Somebody made a comparison that it looked like the Scorpion King in The Mummy Part 2 or The Mummy Part 3. It was terrible CGI, but it wasn't that bad, first of all, okay? They were definitely exaggerating. And number two, the director did defend the poor CGI, saying that it was intentionally done that way so we could see what the Flash was seeing because everything is woozy and all that. Great save. We don't know if he's telling the truth. It could be, just an excuse. But I think it's a pretty good save, whether he's telling the truth or not. But yeah, okay, so fine. The CGI wasn't fantastic. Considering the drama that this movie went through, they changed directors a million times. It was 10 years in the making. Ezra Miller's off camera antics. We didn't even think this movie would come out. So that doesn't truly bother me, the CGI. One thing I was really at first disappointed about, very disappointed about, there is no Christian Bale in the movie. No Christian Bale. Not even a cameo. Not even a cameo for the fans. Not even a cameo for the fans. I cannot believe there was no Christian Bale. I was thinking he's definitely going to show up. Definitely. At least for a cameo, okay? Nope. And I made prediction when I was reviewing and reacting to the Flash trailer that it's possible that George Clooney will be there instead, and he did make the appearance actually, which was cool, and I don't mind it. With him being the worst Batman ever, it's not his fault. I'm gonna defend him, and I've defended him in the past that it's the writers, it's the costume, it's the director. It's not George Clooney's fault. With this new path, he's supposed to be this new Batman going forward to replace Ben Affleck. I think he will be great with this new direction. Hopefully, it'll happen. You know, who knows? Because of what's happening with this film, with the box office not doing well, they might just say, no, we have the Batman with Robert Pattinson. We don't need this anymore. But honestly, I think the Batman with Robert Pattinson was just terrible. I'm not going to go into why. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. I know it's unpopular opinion. A lot of people are like, what are you talking about? The movie was great. I think the Penguin was like the best part of the movie. Robert Pattinson's a decent Batman, and a Bruce Wayne. I actually he's a decent Batman. He's a good Batman. I don't like him as Bruce Wayne. But I'm definitely not gonna get into this right now. But the movie definitely dragged. This movie, The Flash, didn't drag. Okay, so no Christian Bale. On one hand, I was thinking like if they had Christian Bale and Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton fighting together, it would have been like a straight up rip off of Spider-Man No Way Home, and it just doesn't seem like it would flow as nice as Spider-Man, the three Spider-Men working together. I don't think it would flow as nice for three Batmen to do that together. I think Batman is too dark for that, too serious for that. So in a way, I'm glad it didn't happen. But again, if they had at least the cameo, I would have been happy. But and the last thing actually that I didn't like in this movie was the post-credit scene, like the very, very last scene. That's where I was hoping for fun because those scenes we don't take so seriously anyway. He comes out of the bar with Aquaman. Aquaman is drunk, and he's telling him, yeah, I know all these different Batmen that I met, they all look different, but you look the same and whatever. And Aquaman just falls drunk on the floor, and Barry just kind of like walks off, because Aquaman's like, go buy me more beer. But I'm thinking like, what would have been great is if a car pulled up, Bruce Wayne comes out, and it's Christian Bale saying, "Hello, Barry." If they at least had that, it didn't even have to make sense. It could have very easily been out of context. It could have just been a thing for fun, just to play with the multiverse concept. Come on, you're telling me Warner Brothers couldn't pull that off? They spent $230 million on this. You couldn't afford Christian Bale for 5 seconds? And maybe it's not their fault. Maybe they tried. I think Christian Bale is just so stuck up on the idea, oh no, my Batman is serious and I want nothing to do with this multiverse or this fantasy or whatever, and Chris Nolan's not involved. So I think it's that, and there's politics because Christopher Nolan is not in the greatest relationship right now with Warner Brothers, but fine. Couldn't get Christian Bale. I guess it's not the end of the world. Maybe they could have done that with Val Kilmer. I'm sure Val Kilmer would have been up for it with CGI. They did it. They did it for him in Top Gun. Unfortunately, Val Kilmer is not healthy enough to appear in a movie like that with a speaking role. I heard that's what I heard. But with CGI, they could have done it. I'm sure he would have allowed it too. That would have been cool. All right. So anyway, let's talk about the good stuff. I like that the film opens up and it's already, there's something going on. Like the action starts. It's not slow, or, you're not waiting like when is it good, this going to get good? When are we going to get into it? No. It kind of just starts. And there's already like a situation, and it's, there's action involved. So it was really cool, and I like how all heroes are not perfect. They kind of have their weakness, and Barry's weakness is that he needs fuel to run, and it makes sense. I like that, actually. I like that he needed that really high calorie breakfast in order to do these crazy missions. And I like how he couldn't get the breakfast because the guy was making it very slowly. So he had to figure out a creative way to get his calories while doing this mission to help save the babies and save Gotham City and help Batman. So, and again, the movie flows very nicely, and there's no BS moments. Again, in the Batman, I just felt like, I mean, I think the first half of the movie was good, but then after just dragged. Okay, and the same thing with Batman versus Superman, the middle just dragged. Justice League, Josh Wheaton, yeah, I think that too. But here, there was no dull moments. It just flowed so nice. I didn't look at my watch. I didn't say to myself, like, when is this movie going to be over? I enjoyed every second of it. In fact, when the movie was over, I felt like I had withdrawal from the characters and from the story. I think the music was fantastic. It intertwines with the acting and the emotion of the film. I think but they always do a good job with the music in these movies. The acting was phenomenal. Say what you will about Ezra Miller. I understand Ezra Miller is a jerk off the screen, and I believe that he can redeem himself and make things right and apologize and get his act together. I don't know if he's planning to be in the sequels of these movies. I wouldn't mind him to come back as long as he got his act together. But Ezra Miller was phenomenal. Say what you will about Ezra Miller, but Miller was phenomenal. I think as he played two different versions of Barry. The young Barry was obnoxious and immature, and rightfully so, right? Because he didn't have to go through the struggle of what our regular Barry went through. His mother didn't die, and he was spoiled, and he didn't really, have as many responsibilities. But our version of Barry is his mother died, his father went to prison, and he was kind of, he had to become very mature. He was on his own. He had to, be more of an adult, right? So, but he played two different characters at the same time, and it was fantastic. And bravo, bravo. And again, the film, I'm going to probably get to it later in the review, but the emotion of this film, it was touching, it was moving. I'm going to get to exactly why later, but I will say that it was probably the most emotional. There was a part in the end that it was the most emotional part I think I've ever seen in a superhero movie, right? In the Amazing Spider-Man 2, Andrew Garfield, his Peter Parker couldn't save Gwen Stacy and she died. Yeah, that was sad. In the Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker's Aunt May dies. Yeah, that was sad. But the way they showed it, and you can arguably say that No Way Home was a better movie than this Flash movie, which I'm not even sure. I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I grew up loving Spider-Man more than any other superhero, but I'm just gonna keep it real. I'm not even sure. Like, they're both up there for me. The Spider-Man No Way Home and this Flash movie. I can't tell you which one I like better yet. But I will say that this movie really had like such an emotional, touching moment. And I think, again, it had a lot to do with the emotion, the vibe, the acting. I think the way they portrayed it on the screen, they did it so well. So bravo for doing something that, but that's all relative, right? Maybe other people did cry when they saw No Way Home. You know what I'm saying? But this movie, it was really, I don't know, like I just really felt like, whoa. Okay. Now the fighting scenes. The one thing I really appreciated was the fighting scenes, especially with Michael Keaton's Batman. Okay, the martial arts was awesome, and why I appreciate that is because first of all, my favorite Batman, I would have to say. I mean, they're all great. They're all great. Well, not all, but I think Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, and Ben Affleck are fantastic Batmen. But my favorite is Christian Bale. All right. Having said that, Michael Keaton's a great Batman. He's one of my favorite. Unfortunately, when you watch the first movie, his fighting is whatever, right? It's not his fault. It's just the technology and the ability at the time. Now, with the ability and the technology we have today, they made his Batman fight, the way we saw Christian Bale and Ben Affleck fight, and it was awesome. It was just great, and I loved it. So I really appreciate to see Michael Keaton have a chance to show us his cool moves. Comic relief, right? So the one thing I think DC struggled is like Batman vs Superman was very dark. They got criticized that it was way too dark. In Josh Whedon's Justice League, they tried to make it too quirky, too much. They were trying to be the Avengers. They're not the Avengers, okay? And in the Justice League, they had stupid jokes. It was too much with the jokes and the corny. It was so corny. Even Batman was corny. All right, like when Superman threw him on the floor, he's like, "Oh, something hurts." He's trying to be funny all the time. It's just like, oh, it was distasteful. You could tell it was forced. There was one part where the Flash fell on Wonder Woman's chest, and he's like, "Oops, sorry," and it was so cringe that even Gal Gadot didn't even want to take part in it. They had to get a stunt double for Wonder Woman because she didn't want to take part in that. And thank God in the Justice League Zack Snyder version, they got rid of that lame scene. Okay, but here, whatever jokes they had when it came to Ben Affleck's Batman, all the comic relief, it worked. It flowed. It didn't feel forced. It was appropriate. It didn't mess with Batman's dark demeanor. Bravo. It was great. And I know a lot of people were also saying young Barry was annoying, but and they felt like maybe it wasn't necessary for him to be that annoying, and but I think it was fine, and I think we needed him to be that annoying because we saw a mature and a young and an immature Flash working together. I actually think that was important for the movie. I think it was important for the scenes. And of course, he got his act together when he learned why the older version of him in a different universe was so uptight, and also after our version of Barry yelled at him, of course. Okay, so the recasting of Henry Allen. I loved it. I loved it because in the Justice League, we see one guy, and I was curious why they replaced him, and it's because of scheduling issues. But this guy, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but he brightens up the screen, right? Like, what an amazing replacement! Like, he just fits so well for this part, and it's somebody I enjoyed watching. I don't know about anybody else, but the other guy was just like, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either. He was just plain. This guy like lit up the screen. He was bright. I can't explain it, but he fits so well for that character. And we've seen him in Office Space and in Sex and the City. And he's a great actor. I think he's an underrated actor, actually. Bravo for him. I'm so happy that he landed this role. Batman. Okay, so another thing that I love, and I think there were people that were annoyed with it, were the lines that Michael Keaton's Batman said in the movie, like, "I'm Batman," or "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." Especially that one, because they're saying, "Oh, but it didn't even make sense. It didn't fit." Who cares? This is a movie. It's fun. It's for entertainment. Newsflash, there's no such thing as a man who could, run in the speed of light either, right? There's no such thing as Superman. Batman's unrealistic. Let's be real here. This is a film. This is for nostalgia. This is what the fans were. You know how many reaction videos I've seen where people would watch the trailer and once Michael Keaton said that, they bugged out like in a positive way. They couldn't believe it. They were so excited, so happy. That's what it's for. All right. I thought that was awesome. Okay. Um, I love the Back to the Future references. Now, first of all, I think that I'm not going to say it was this film's laws of time travel were necessarily inspired by Back to the Future. I think it was more inspired from The Time Machine, which is a novel. And I think there's a movie that I saw which is based on the novel from 2002. Samantha Mamba is in it, I believe. And then Guy Pearce. I don't remember what his name is. But Back to the Future is such a major film, and it was like the first mainstream movie with time travel, I think, that made time travel film very famous. So it was like a great tribute to them, but I also love the reference because it's so appropriate to put these references in a time travel movie like this, right? Where Eric Stoltz in some universe out there exists as Marty McFly. All right, and because the original film, he was in it, and then he got fired, and they replaced him with Michael J. Fox. Okay, and I'm sure there's a cult following that likes Eric Stoltz better, but I like that in this universe, and young Barry and Michael Keaton's universe, Eric Stoltz is Marty McFly, and I thought it was just appropriate and awesome and interesting all at the same time. So that was really cool. Now, this one is a big one. In a way, I was sad, but I gotta say that I actually understand and think it's pretty neat that they decided to destroy Michael Keaton's universe. It was something that Barry couldn't save. Okay, and this is what in a way, I feel like it was a little bittersweet, if you will, because like in all these movies, we're always expecting the superheroes to win, right? With the exception of the Avengers, Infinity Wars, but in Avengers Infinity War, we knew that in Endgame they're gonna save the Earth, okay, which is basically a part two. So happy ending. There you go. But here, this just shows that hey, there's a multiverse concept. There's so many different universes, and yes, in this universe with Barry, our version of Barry Allen, Zod comes to Earth, Superman stops him, happy ending, right? In this Michael Keaton universe, there is Superman dies as an infant, and they really try to battle him. They really try, and they even go back in time after Zod kills Supergirl, and they kill Michael Keaton's Batman. The two Barrys go back in time to try, and it seemed like things were working out, but then they die again, and the Earth is doomed. That version of the Earth is doomed because with no Superman to defend it, and they got what they needed from Supergirl, like her blood or something like that. That's it. Earth is done. And what's the Flash going to do? Nothing. So the only power that I think he had was that could have stopped Zod was the time travel, which wasn't working. And in a way, I appreciated that it didn't work, where Barry kind of said, we can continue going back and back and back. It's just not going to work. And that actually reminded me from the Time Machine movie, because what happened is in the Time Machine movie, this person lost his love interest, right? She dies. So he invents a time machine. He goes back to save her 2 years, 2 years go by. He goes back 2 years to save her. She dies again in a different way. And then he tells his friend has no idea what he's talking about, but he tells his friend anyway, like, I could go back a million times. She's going to keep dying in different ways over and over again, It's like the definition of insanity. You expect different results after you do something over and over again, expecting different results. And this is what happened in this Flash movie. Barry realized right away. They went back once, they died again. He's like, we're going to continue going back and back and back. There's nothing we can do. They're going to keep dying. Young Barry, however, because he's young and immature and naive, he's like, no, I can't accept that. And he continues going back, going back, going back, going back. And then we realized, I got the chills actually when I saw that happening. And then I saw the aggression of young Barry. I was like, oh, he's the reverse Flash or Dark Flash, whatever the villain is called. I was like, he's the one, because we saw him in the beginning of the film, kind of, where he pushes our version of Barry into the Michael Keaton universe. So once I saw that, I was like, oh, that's him, that's him. And then later we find out it was him, and there was all these clues because all these objects started getting stuck on him. And, he just, it's like in the Dark Knight, right? You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And that's exactly what happened with young Barry. He was trying to be a hero and eventually became a villain. So I think that, as much as I didn't like that happening, I understood why it happened, and it was sad that, Michael Keaton's Batman died, Supergirl died because she was cool. She was really, really great casting. She's a great actress. She did a fantastic job as well. But, I was speaking to some of my friends and they're like, oh, I'm not even worried about that. I'm sure Michael Keaton's Batman is still alive somewhere in a different universe. And I'm like, good point. Good point, right? Like, if they really want to, they could bring him back. And yeah, so I like that there's a bittersweet ending because he still got to help his dad in another universe. He somehow got footage. I guess he got it from the universe that was doomed, and he brought it to save his dad. So it's a bittersweet ending. And again, I said I'm going to mention it later in the video. This is the later where it was emotional, that it was really emotional and touching how he basically had to do one of the hardest things he realized he had to do, and that's to not save his mother like he wanted. So he originally put the can of tomatoes into her cart, and then it was so sad because he came back. He kind of had a moment with her. He said his goodbyes, and then he quickly took the tomatoes off the cart, knowing that she's gonna die with him doing that. But he had no choice because the worlds were colliding, and this is where I want to get to the cameos. This is what one of my favorite parts of the movie as well. The cameos. They showed, and it was like a surprise. It just happened so subtly. I was like, whoa, I was like blown away because they showed old Superman from like the 1940s, I think. They showed Christopher Reeve's Superman, which again, they were fans that were complaining, how dare you use his CGI? He's dead. It's inappropriate. Are you kidding me? First of all, it's not like they put him in the movie with speaking lines. They were just showing him. Okay, if anything, it's a great tribute, and it's also like a thank you. And I heard that his family gave permission. So if anything, this is a great tribute. Okay, this is a just to say that, hey, all these characters, Adam West's Batman was there, all Nicolas Cage Superman was there, the one that never got made. And this is just to say all these characters exist somewhere in the multiverse, which was very nice. I think it was very nice, and too bad they couldn't show Val Kilmer or Christian Bale's Batman. At the very least, Val Kilmer's, right? So the cameos were great, and what I also loved was the Easter egg. They even got to put a Joker Easter egg in there. Jack Nicholson. It's when both Barrys were in the Batcave earlier in the film, and the young Barry's like, "Look, I found this pocket," and it's like, "Ha ha ha ha!" It was the Joker laugh, and you could hear that it's Jack Nicholson's Joker laugh. So Michael Keaton's Batman stashed that in the Batcave for some reason. I guess maybe for evidence or nostalgia. I don't know. Either way, yeah, so that's pretty much it. But there are a few questions that I have, actually. There are a few questions that I have. So the questions that I have are: A, why couldn't he save So like when he realized that he can go back over and over again and he can't save Supergirl or or Batman or the world, that universe, why was he able to do that in Zack Snyder's Justice League? Because that's what happened, right? Darkseid came, they failed the mission, and everything blew to pieces, right? And the Flash, he stopped, he got out of that, and he started running so fast, he turned back time, okay, and then he basically saved, he reversed what happened, and he saved the Justice League, he saved the world, and he defeated Darkseid. So why couldn't they do that here? Okay, I guess maybe because it was a simpler task. I mean, how can it be, right? But maybe it was a simpler task. Maybe there was too much going on with Zod and he's an alien and all that. I don't know. But I think that's a good question. Number two, now that he basically, unfortunately, realized that he has to let young Barry's mom die the same way his mom died, does that mean the Michael Keaton world gets destroyed? Maybe it doesn't, right? Because now Zod comes to Earth. Hey, give me Superman. We don't have him. Oh, right, because Zod killed infant Superman. So now Zod's looking for Supergirl. Although he doesn't know where she's at. He doesn't know where she's at, right? She's in a Russian prison, in a Soviet prison. So he doesn't know where she's at. The Soviets are not going to give her up. Okay. And also, if the Soviets are maintaining her or containing her, I should say, and she has no power in that prison cell, that means they have probably doses of kryptonite in there. I would guess. Like, what else? Because she's Supergirl. She's like Superman. Nothing can stop them unless it's kryptonite. So they must have it, right? So there you go. They'd probably realize Zod is like her. They could weaponize it and attack, right? That could be a thing too. So the Michael Keaton universe is not dead then, from what I understand. Unless they're gonna just like destroy it anyway, actually. Never mind, maybe it is because Zod can just be like, all right, well, we don't know where Supergirl's at. Let's just destroy everything and enslave everybody and be the supermen that rule the earth. I mean, then that could be an issue, right? All right, now another question. The George Clooney cameo doesn't make sense because, again, I know that it wasn't just a cameo. A lot of people thought it was just for fun. I don't think it's for fun. I actually heard that moving forward, he's going to, because Ben Affleck is definitely out as Batman, right? So the thing was, and it's a confirmed rumor, I guess, right? Because they said it was a rumor and now we saw it on screen that George Clooney's going to come back. He's going to be the new Batman going forward. And why that doesn't make sense is like, so Barry leaves his universe to go to Michael Keaton's, and then he comes back to his universe, or so he thought. Apparently, he came to the wrong one, and George Clooney's Batman. But then when he saw George Clooney acknowledged him. Oh, like, oh, hey, Barry. So he knew who Barry Allen is. He knew that he was the Flash. Then where is that universe's version of Barry Allen, the Flash? Right? He must look just like Ezra Miller because George Clooney recognizes him. But then where is that Flash? Where's he at? Where'd he go? Right? Unless, I mean, wouldn't he go to the court hearing for his father? If we can say, oh, maybe he's home, right? So that kind of didn't make sense. And then also, what doesn't make sense, which I guess is not important, from what I understand, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, and George Clooney are all from the same universe because they have the same Alfred, they had the same this, but I guess now you can say, no, they weren't from the same universe. They're not from the Batman 89 Earth. You know, Michael Keaton had his own thing, Val Kilmer had his own thing, George Clooney had his own thing. And yeah, they just had a same looking Alfred, just like, there's the same looking Aquaman, right? As Barry explains to him in the post-credit scene. And the last thing I'm going to say, it's not a question, but I'm going to say is like people need to just relax. They're saying that it didn't make sense and, they got to get better with the storytelling or they have to get better with the whole concept of time travel and multiverse or it contradicts this and that. I think, first of all, they did a fantastic job. Yeah, there are flaws. Of course, there are. There's always going to be flaws. But what? You're meaning to tell me that Back to the Future Part 2 didn't have any flaws? Of course it did. The movie didn't even have to exist. Okay? It didn't make sense. Part 1 made more sense. Part 2 made no sense. And I love that movie too, but it's just for pure entertainment. That's all. Think about it. All right. The doctor tells Marty, we have to go to the future to save your son. Why? Why can't you just tell Marty, hey, your son's going to get into trouble. Make sure you teach him right and you avoid for him to hang out with this guy and do this and do that. And you should avoid that car accident. You should avoid racing so you wouldn't get into that car accident. Boom. If he just told him those things, part 2 wouldn't even exist. Fine. Another thing that doesn't make sense in part 2. Old Biff steals the DeLorean, goes back to the 50s, gives himself that book of information on sports betting where his younger self can become rich off it. And then he comes back to return the DeLorean to Michael J. Fox and the doctor. But how's he going to go back to return the DeLorean if by giving Biff the book, he now changed the future? So he wouldn't be in that timeline. It doesn't make sense. But then when Marty and the Doc go back, now they're in that timeline. It just doesn't make any sense. Okay. And I'm sure there's more, but the point is the movie's still fantastic and I'm glad it exists, just like this one. So the fans need to back off. All the critics, I should say, should back off. And honestly, I know Rotten Tomatoes, like the audience gave it a positive review. Great, the Flash movie. But the critics gave it a decent rating. But who the hell, who cares what the critics have to say? You know how many movies we've seen that the critics said it's garbage and it was fantastic? And you know how many movies they said was fantastic and it was garbage? I'm not gonna, first of all, who knows if they're not just like all in on it together? It's all about the money, it's all politics. Who knows? And who cares what they have to say? What matters more to me is the audience score than the critic score. All right. And the audience score is great. You know how many people are commenting on on Facebook, they post the articles that the Flash is underperforming, and everybody's like thinking like what I'm thinking. I don't understand why. I want to see it again. And I do want to see it again. That's definitely worthy to be part of my collection. So that's it. That was my Flash review. If you guys will have something to say, please comment. Please like the video if you like it. If you like what I do here, please subscribe. And until next time.